Hello, and welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Dianne Gallagher.
Every week, we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explore the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Now enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to episode 18 of Rock the Cash Bar. How are you, Diane?
I am good. We are not in the usual place for recording, are we?
We are on the idyllic Galveston Island.
Idyllic. You know, the water is pretty blue today. It's pretty nice.
Well, we're in a fantastic setting. I mean, we really are. You're on a little vacation down here with your husband and your son.
Yeah, it's our 10th wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. We were supposed to be in Boston and then Maine. And then, of course, coronavirus happened and there is no travel. So my husband surprised me with a pretty boss-ass beach house in Galveston. It's a little over the top nice, but he wanted, it's our 10th anniversary and we had planned on going to Maine for 10 years. I mean, that was always our plan. And when we hit 10 years, we're going to go to Maine because we both have never been and we wanted to. And a lot of my banner year things get ruined. My 40th birthday, I planned on going to the Virgin Islands for like 3 straight years. And then that year, my house flooded in Hurricane Harvey. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm still going to go to that island. And then that island got hit twice with 2 hurricanes. And I was like, all right, I get it. I don't get to do anything.
You're like typhoid Diane. Everything you do gets cursed.
I know. And then, here comes our 10th anniversary and then nope, coronavirus. Or, I roll with it. I laugh. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get mad. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, this is a pretty nice house in Galveston.
Yeah, it's hard to feel cursed when you're sitting here.
Yeah.
There's a great big bay window.
Yeah.
There's probably a 20-foot bay window, and the house is backing up right onto the beach. So it is absolutely, the view is astonishing.
We're gazing out onto the ocean.
This is a podcast with a view.
Yes. So we want to thank our Patreon listeners for voting this one in. This one is going to be fun. What do you think about this one?
I'm really excited about this one. We're doing, this is not my favorite band, but it's very, very close.
Okay.
But we are going to talk about my favorite rock and roll personality today.
Okay.
Today we're doing One by U2.
Yes.
And we will be discussing all of the things that go on in Bono's megalomaniacal head.
Yep.
I want to say off the top that I absolutely love Bono.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really do.
Yeah.
I love him. And I think I love him for all the reasons that everybody else hates him.
Oh, the ego?
The ego, the bombast, the self-righteousness,
yeah.
the self-assuredness,
yeah.
the confidence,
yes.
the arrogance that he honestly believes that he can change the world. I admire that in him.
Yeah, because we've never found out that he's a child molester or anything.
Nope.
Mean, everything seems to check out. He's a pretty great guy.
That's the thing. Like, I look at all the crazy things that he does, and I see sincerity. Like, yeah. I don't see a showman. I don't see a guy being performative about the way he's conducting himself. I see a guy who's 100% sincere.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think so.
God, okay, so there's so many things to talk about, like my alarm going off. Sorry, guys. Okay, let me get situated. So there's so many things to talk about, and I feel like, okay, today, the day that we are recording this is Tuesday, and if you are on Instagram, it is Blackout Tuesday. We can't ignore the fact that there's a lot going on in the world right now with protests and the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. And I do want to bring it up that, Bono's probably thinking about all of this right now, and he probably has something to say about it. And I'm really surprised the Patreon, I guess they didn't know it was going to reach this level. I think Pride in the Name of Love would have been a really good song to coincide with this. But people use one to also talk about subjects like this.
Yeah, and I honestly think this is where Bono is better. Like, I love his forceful personality. I love songs like Pride, which is explicitly about Martin Luther King and the Martin Luther King assassination and civil rights in America. I love songs like Bullet the Blue Sky, which is explicitly about Latin American refugees coming into America. I love Sunday Bloody Sunday, explicitly about the problems in Ireland and Northern Ireland. I like him when he's doing that. Like, I really admire him, but I really think he's at his best when he's writing songs like One, where Bono, we've talked about this before, but Bono's really good about finding common ground.
Right.
Like no matter how divisive the situation or no matter where he's seen, I've seen him perform in Houston, Texas 3 times. It's a very redneck town. It's a very right-wing Republican town. And Bono can take a stadium of 60,000 people and he can bring them all into the same patch of ground and he can hold them there for a while.
I will interject one argument there. I think people think Houston, because we're in Texas, is a redneck right-wing town, but we vote blue. It's not by a landslide, but all the big cities in Texas vote blue. We're That's just true. Surrounded for miles and miles and miles of small town red. And we are the most culturally diverse city in the nation. And I feel like everyone in Houston knows that. It's not even a shock when you say it. We look around and we see it. But people who aren't from Texas and have this misconception about Texas, they laugh at you like you're lying. Yeah. And I'm like, no, we're more diverse than New York City. Yeah, we really are.
You've seen U2 a couple of times in Houston, right?
Yes.
Largely white crowd, huh?
I understand your point there. He's not bringing out the culturally diverse Houston crowd to his show. I do understand your point.
Not only is it largely white, but you and I are both 40. And we're probably among the youngest people.
That is true. But it's a kick-ass show, too.
It really, we're doing One, which is an incredible song. And obviously one of the songs that U2 is there another, maybe With or Without You? I'm trying to think of like another, like more like iconic, like what's the first, like if you're not a big U2 fan, what's the first U2 song?
Probably With or Without You. Pride in the Name of Love is huge. And I think, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but Sunday Bloody Sunday is so huge. Yeah. And then it depends on your age too, because then, Zooropa came out and then like Corbin says One, it's One. One's the biggest song.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think this is when Bono passes, this is probably going to be the one that's playing on CNN or the news.
Right.
It's going to be this. So let's just get right into it. One by U2, lyrics by Bono, the former Paul Hewson. Is it getting better, or do you feel the same? Will it make it easier on you now that you've got someone to blame? You say one love, one life, when it's one need in the night. One love, we get to share it. It leaves you, baby, if you don't care for it.
You say baby, I have darling. Does he say both? Is it interchangeable?
It might be. It's interchangeable. I don't suppose that one matters all that much. I like how he opens with questions.
Yes.
He has a lot of questions in this one.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of back and forth in this song. Like this is kind of like declarative statements or hypothetical questions or leading questions from Bono or from the speaker.
Yeah, you're correct. I didn't even realize that. It's not, you never hear the voice of the other person.
Yeah, you really even don't even get a sense of their answer the whole way through. Like, did I disappoint you or leave a bad taste in your mouth? You act like you never had love and you want me to go without.
Oof.
Some of these lines are absolutely devastating. This is a breakup song, I think.
It's okay, so I was saying earlier, if you just, I didn't know U2, never heard the song, you just slipped this piece of paper in front of me and said, read these lyrics. I'm like, this is a guy breaking up with someone and they cannot reconcile.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like their lives are just too different and they cannot navigate this relationship.
But they're taking it very seriously. Like they're not throwing chanclas at each other.
No.
This isn't an egg fight. Like this is two people who are like sitting down at the end of it. Like after you've had the big blowout, where you're hair pulling and you're rating each other's Instagram accounts and slashing each other's tires and
yeah, he's asking the real questions. This isn't a fuck you. This is, did I disappoint you? Yeah, it's like, you don't want me to have love.
Yeah, we used to love each other. What the fuck went wrong?
Yeah,
like it's an eloquent way of asking those questions. And of course, and he doesn't pull any punches. He goes on to, well, it's too late tonight to drag the past out into the light.
They've already done that.
Yeah. We're one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. We get to carry each other. We get to. It's not we've got to.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by that lyric, because it's a subtle change, but it makes all the difference in the world. It's not we've got to. It's we get to.
Yeah. It's looking at it like in this positive way instead of like we got to pull through, and it's like, no, we get to. Yeah. This is life.
Yeah, and that's the line that like all of these heartbreaking questions that he's asking, I think, are underlined in that. Like where are you going? Why are you leaving me? We get to carry each other.
Yeah,
like that's the joy that we get out of this. That's the one joy that we get out of this life, is we get to carry each other.
Yeah.
And he just continues. Have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head?
Okay. You're going to have to tell me your Ben-ism on this.
Well,
have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? Have you come here?
It's kind of like have you come here for forgiveness is a weird thing. Like you're like, after everything that we've been through, you're coming back here and you're looking for my forgiveness. Like, do you really think you're going to get that? Like, do you think he's being that confrontational? That's one way you could take it.
Yeah.
Have you come to raise the dead? Like, have you come to bring up all of the arguments that we've been having before?
Okay.
Like, have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? So now he's accusing, we'll assume it's a heterosexual relationship.
Yeah.
Now he, Bono, or the speaker, is accusing her, his lover, of coming back and basically like getting on the cross, like playing the martyr thing. Like, oh, you're gonna come here and you're gonna pretend like you're Jesus. Right. You're gonna act like you saved me because of the lepers that are in your own head.
Yeah, I can't, and I don't want to like jump ahead. I'm already mixing up with these lines with the different meanings people have placed on this song. Like, we're looking at it right now as two people breaking up, but this song has taken on so many different meanings about, we'll just say like, homosexuality and AIDS and a conversation a guy is having with his dad. And I can't stop mixing that into these lines and breaking away from a relationship. I was just like, this gets very different.
And all of those interpretations are 100% deliberate. Like he's absolutely doing like Bono is a devoutly religious man. Like it's not just like a guy who went to school, or went to church when he was a young man. He's a devoutly religious man to this day.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and has been his whole. We'll go over.
Okay.
So for a guy like that to say, "Have you come here for forgiveness?" and then to accuse somebody of playing Jesus is not accidental at all.
Okay.
Like he's saying, "You're coming and asking me because Jesus forgives, right?
Right.
So you're coming and asking me for forgiveness? Like you're going to play? Are you asking for my forgiveness? You want me to forgive you?
Yeah, when he's offering
to me?
Yeah, but he's saying her, you playing Jesus. Am I supposed to be asking you for forgiveness? That's what it sounds like. I
think this is him getting his hackles up. Like he's saying, "Oh, you're coming to me looking for forgiveness, and you're expecting me to do that. I'm not Jesus. I can't forgive you for that. Oh, wait a second. You think you are?"
I see.
I think he's kind of like getting under the argument.
Right.
He's twisting it back. But then he says, "Did I ask too much? More than a lot?" Right? Because that's what he's like. He's just absolutely desperate here. Like we've all been in fights and arguments with loved ones like that, where when the rubber really meets the road. That's the question that you're asking. Like, have you ever been in an argument or like a fight with somebody where you're asking, these kind of questions?
Absolutely. I think this line especially, like, I was just like, it's hard to put it in words also because I've had a few rum drinks because I've been at the beach all morning. But yeah, it's almost like, did I love you more than you loved me? Was I asking too much of you? Yeah. Yeah. Personally, emotionally. Mm-hmm.
And then even like there's the wider one, like over the course of our relationship that I asked too much for you. Yeah. But then there's also within the fight where you're just saying, like, are you here for forgiveness? Is it getting better? Do you feel the same? Can we make any progress here whatsoever? Yeah. Oh, did I ask too much of you? Like, is it too much for you to meet me? Is it too? Am I asking these questions? Is that too much?
And it goes right into that next line. You gave me nothing. Now it's all I've got. You hear that so much in a relationship. These imbalanced relationships is like, I loved you more than you loved me this whole time. You did not give back what I was putting in. Yep. Yeah.
And the truth is, like, the relationship can be equally imbalanced, if that makes any kind of... Like, if I'm giving my lover something and she's not receiving it, and she's giving me something equal back, but I'm not receiving it, then were equally imbalanced, right?
I see what you mean,
You could both walk away asking these same questions and feeling that same level of bitterness if you're not actually listening to each other.
God, I don't miss these relationships. Like, I'm so happy to be in a good one now, but I've been through these. I went through like 2 long ones of these where like that boat could never settle. It just couldn't settle.
But you wouldn't be able to handle the relationship you're in now if not for the lessons you learned.
That's true.
In the previous ones.
That's true.
Like until you've actually had that struggle and failed it and answered those questions for yourself, and you'll never be able to do it. It's the old hippie adage, like you have to love yourself before you can love another.
Right.
There's another thing this song gets into. Then he gets straight up accusatory. You say love is a temple, love is a higher law.
Oh, wait, hold on. We're one, but we're not the same.
Oh, sorry.
See, we hurt each other.
And then we do it again, which is like they've been through this. They've been down this road many a time before.
Yeah.
You say love is a temple, love is a higher law, love is a temple, love is a higher law. Again, Bono is a very religious man. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Bono says about God is that you can't understand it. He's indescribable. What is God? Mm-hmm. We don't know. We do know. This is what he says. He goes, we do know that God is love. Like if he's anything, then he has to be love.
Right. And that's something everyone can agree on.
Yes. And he also says that how you respond to that love is ultimately the practice of your religion.
Right.
Like as long as you're responding to that love correctly and honestly, then you're responding to the words of God. So for him to say love is a temple, love is a higher law, he's obviously he's coming down from his I don't want to say religious high horse because I do respect him for it.
Yeah.
I kind of understand where he's coming from. He says, you ask me to enter, but then you make me crawl, and I can't be holding on to what you got when all you got is hurt. And this is that. You can't be in love until you love yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you're just a black hole of emotion.
Of just pain and anger and It's
that line that gets me because in the relationships that I've crashed and burned, that's been the strike against me.
Is that you?
Like, yeah, I don't mean to. I mean, obviously, this is Bono. He's a rock and roll poet, for God's sake. So
right.
Nobody ever said it quite so succinctly and poetically to me.
So does it hurt your heart real bad every time you hear that, Ben?
Yes, it does. Like, I definitely did it. Because I identify with Bono. I like Bono a lot. This is one of the weird songs where I don't see myself as the speaker. I see myself as a person sitting on the other end of the table. Like when these questions are asked, I'm answering them, and I have no answer for them. Like I've been through periods and relationships in my life where somebody would say to me something like, "I can't keep holding on to what you've got when all you've got is hurt." And I'd be like, "You're absolutely right. That's all I have right now, and I'm sorry."
I'm trying to think if I have a song like that where I'm the person that they are talking to. Because a lot of times when you hear these songs, you take on the singer and you're like, you picture yourself at one point in your life saying this to someone else. And there's got to be one where I was just like, oh God, you're talking about me. One love. One
blood, one life. You've got to do what you should. One life with each other, sisters, brothers. One life, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. One. That's Bono feeling it.
Strong song. And, okay, so pinning down one solid meaning of this song is kind of impossible. Like we said, you read it and it just sounds like a relationship. But I believe you that he specifically wrote it kind of vague, that it could take on so many different meanings that it needed to in whatever decade the song is hitting you in. I
think we need to talk about like where U2 and Bono were at the time when they were writing one, like where they were physically and in their careers. We were talking about this maybe on another podcast or privately, but there's Bill Simmons, who does the Ringer podcast or did the Ringer podcast. He had he calls it the heavyweight championship belt of whatever. Okay. Right? It's sort of like did we talk about this on the last one?
I don't think so.
Okay. It was, so he would do it for like the best TV show or the best Hollywood
maybe we did.
Man.
Okay. Yeah. If it wasn't on the podcast, it was in private. I remember this now.
So his whole thing was just like who's the biggest rock band in the world, heavyweight championship belt style. Like, you got to knock the champion out, right?
Yes.
So at some point, it's the Rolling Stones. At some point, it's the Beatles. And I think Elton John had it for a little while. And then in the mid to late 80s, He had In Excess as the heavyweight champion, and then U2 takes the heavyweight championship belt in like 1987 when the Joshua Tree comes out.
Okay.
Long-winded explanation to say U2 is basically the biggest band in the world.
Right.
In 87, 88. And then in 89, they do Rattle and Hum, which was a kind of like, it was the U2 at their biggest and bloatest. You know, they had like, they were wearing the Stetson hats.
That was like, it's the cowboy look.
Yeah.
It's weird cowboy look.
It was Bono with his black leather vest and no shirt underneath, and
that's necklaces. With or without you.
That's with
Rattle
or without
and
you.
Hum.
No, with or without you is the Joshua Tree.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
So, God, I just picture the With or Without You video, and I swear he's still in the vest.
Yeah, that's where the costume kind of started.
Okay.
But then when they got into Rattle and Hum, they were doing kind of a famous U2 story is he meets Bob Dylan for the first time. And of course, like Bono's like 24, 25 and couldn't be happier to be meeting his hero. And Bob Dylan tells Bono, like, hey, you got to be careful because all of your songs are so atmospheric and so ethereal, like from Under a Blood Red Sky or from Unforgettable Fire and stuff like that. Nobody can play your song. Like, people need to be able to pick up a guitar and just know 3 or 4 chords and be able to play your song. That's how you work your way into people's hearts and minds.
Wow.
Like Bono was telling us, like, okay, I got this great song that was inspired by you, and he's got his guitar, and Bono doesn't play guitar very well at all, but he's trying to play this song for Bob Dylan, and Bono just gives up, turns the guitar over, and just beats the rhythm out on the back of the guitar. And he said he just felt so foolish. Like, I can't even play my song for Bob Dylan. He felt that they had to get into like American roots music, which is what they did on Rattle and Hum, and that whole Rattle and Hum tour. They had a great song called When Love Comes to Town.
Yeah, I was about to say When Love Comes to Town.
With B.B. King. I love that song.
So good.
That's one of those, like, we keep stumbling on these musical geniuses, but Bono was 26 years old when he wrote When Love Comes to Town, and the lyrics for that one are so, they're just so incredibly accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think this wasn't an American born and raised song.
Exactly. But this is what's happening with U2 is they're getting so big. They've got a couple of real clever quotes where, like, Larry Mullen, their drummer, was just like, that was a hard time for us because it's 1989 and we're doing this American blues and roots music, and then we're selling it to Americans as if they don't already know what it is.
Right, right.
Like here's these Irish rockers just like, have you ever heard of the blues? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, the Stones did it too.
Yeah, but the Stones were doing it 20 years earlier.
Right.
So it's like U2's even late on that. Like
right.
They were just getting to the end of it and just feeling ridiculous. And of course, Bono is a pretty bombastic, very self-serious guy. So they do a show in Dublin, their hometown, on New Year's Eve, 1989, December 31st, 1989. And Bono tells the crowd there, it's just like, hey, it's no big deal, but U2's got to go away for a while and just dream it all up again.
Okay.
So he goes away wearing the cowboy hat and the ripped jeans and the vests and playing the harmonica and thinking of himself as, the next coming of like Muddy Waters. And by the time he comes back, he's wearing the big black fly glasses and the plastic pants and the shiny, billowy, mysterious ways, red silky shirt.
That's so weird.
Like, what happened to U2?
Yes. Yeah, I remember reading the band were really having a struggle before this song hit. Like, they were trying to find themselves, and the band was almost got to a breaking up point because they were not agreeing on the direction the band was going musically. Yeah,
because how could you? Like, you've obviously reached the end point there. And they probably also kind of see, because In Excess kind of dropped off too. Yeah. Like In Excess, they must have been looking around just like, we have to find the way forward because we cannot do the Joshua Tree again. Yeah. So kind of Bono's big quote on Actone Baby was, Actone Baby is the sound of 4 guys chopping down the Joshua Tree.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a great, but they're having these big internal band conflicts where Adam, the bassist, and Larry, the drummer, don't want to go in the direction that Bono and Edge want to go in. Bono and Edge want to go into like the Manchester industrial music kind of thing. Right. They want to mix in dance music and drum.
Exactly. That's what I remember. They wanted to get more, almost like more dancey, which a lot of stuff was doing. I mean, this is around the same time, like Vogue and Madonna, they kind of like, you kind of stay with the crowd and move with it. And I understand sometimes like other band members being like, but that's not our sound. Let's stay with our sound. Mm-hmm. But it's so hard. Like, do you innovate? Do you keep going with the times? Do you stick with your stuff? And they landed on one, and it was a game changer.
So they go to Berlin, and this is like literally as Germany is reunifying. So they're doing that deliberately.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's nothing subtle about Bono.
No.
I'm having trouble.
No accidents.
Yeah, I'm having trouble keeping my band united. Like, I think Germany is reunifying. Maybe we can reunify at the Hansa Studios, where David Bowie was able to catch lightning in a bottle, and Iggy Pop was able to do it in the early 70s, and then to do it at this magical moment in world history and German history. Berlin had to be the place for them to go.
Right.
So they go there, and they kind of luck out, and they're having huge big arguments because Adam and Larry, the rhythm section, don't want to be taken over by drum machines and dance, but like, hang on a second, like, we're the bassist and the drummer in this band. We have to have something to do with. What is this? So they're not getting anywhere, and they're having horrible, horrible fights. I mean, Bono is obviously pretty megalomaniacal and sure of himself, but Larry is kind of, he's sort of like the other end of masculinity, where Bono is flashy and forthright and lots of words and kind of finger wagging. Larry is more the man's man, you know, black t-shirt, jeans, muscles.
Yeah.
I just want to play the drums, man. Get enough of that shite, Bono. I'm going to fucking kick your ass. Like, you can definitely see them having some knocked out dragouts about this. But then they stumble on one. And of course, the Edge puts some of the music together, and the rest of the band's like, okay, no, this is actually a song. This is really something that we can put together. So Bono starts trying to tumble the lyrics together and come up with some ideas for it. Of course, the Dalai Lama had asked U2 to come to a festival he was hosting around that time. And that festival was called Oneness.
Yes.
So Bono immediately starts singing about one. Now he's got religion on his mind. Now he's got the Dalai Lama on his mind. Now he's trying to speak to everybody into Buddhist perfection with one. So I think that's what he's doing right off the top.
Yes.
So I think there's like what the song is specifically about with the band. I think all of these questions that Bono or the speaker is asking are all questions that you would ask internally in a band struggle or in a relationship struggle.
Well, wasn't also the Edge, him and his wife were disintegrating, and so that had a lot to do with it too. I mean, they're getting it all around them.
That's why Octone Baby, for as much as it's like, oh, this is U2 showing that they have a sense of humor, it's also their darkest record by far. Yeah. Like, there's no hope in Love is Blindness.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just straight Love is Blindness. I don't want to see. Won't you wrap the night around me?
I remember not liking Octone Baby as much as the previous ones.
I loved it.
Is it one of your favorites?
I would, gun to my head, well, no.
No, okay.
No, I mean, I would, like, if I was a writer for Rolling Stone, I would argue that Octone Baby is U2's high point over the Joshua Tree, and I would understand it be inviting some argument. But just as a straight up fan, and we'll get into this later. Okay. This is absolute U2 sacrilege. My favorite U2 album is October.
Wow.
And I know it sounds like, oh, you're just trying to be the hipster, like picking the one album that everybody thinks is the clunker. I love October because that's the Bono that I love.
Oh, really?
But let's go back in time a little bit. Like, Bono is.
So what's the biggest song on October?
Gloria.
Okay.
Gloria, but then
they
also
were more like punk.
They were. That was a very kind of punky punk din kind of album. Yeah. But Bono was born in Dublin, and all the guys were born in Dublin around like 1960, 1961. So they're teenagers during the 70s in Ireland when it's no picnic. My dad was born in 1955 in Londonderry in Northern Ireland. So they're around the same age. And it's just not a good time. Like it's not at all dissimilar to what's happening in America right now today.
What's the date of Sunday Bloody Sunday?
That was the early 70s.
Okay. Just get my bearings straight on that.
I really should know that off the top of my 1972. Okay. So yeah, Bono would have been 11 or 12. Okay. So there's sectarian violence, there's religious violence, there's political violence, there's people who are ginning it up for their own reasons. My dad would tell me stories about there would be riots like literally every Sunday. And that was part of the thing. It was like there were people who were going to demonstrate. There were people who actually have a reason to go and demonstrate and want to do it peacefully and have a message that they want to get out. And then there are just young guys who just want to break some shit.
Wow, how current.
I know. Yep. How could it be? And that's just a thing. That's just a thing that young men go through. Yeah. Like if you had put me at a political demonstration at 17 or 18 years old, I damn sure would have been throwing garbage cans. I know. Damn sure would have been looking for bricks. Like, yeah. Absolutely. Like it's I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm not going to do that now. No. but I totally understand.
Yeah, you feel that rage, and you just have that that young, like, vigor to like get your fucking message heard. You're not listening this other way. You're going to listen to this brick through your window. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to hear me today because I'm surrounded by thousands of like-minded people. Finally, like I finally have the strength. Like it's a thing that you can sort of understand.
Yeah.
Bono grew up in a fairly religious household when he was young. I think when he was 10 or 11, so right around Sunday Bloody Sunday time, his mother's father died. And so his family, he and his older brother and his father and his mother go to the funeral. And again, he's 10 or 11 years old. His grandfather was very active in his life, and he's burying his grandfather. And while they're at the funeral, literally while they're putting his grandfather in the ground, his mother dies of grief.
Oh,
like there's no other way to explain it.
God.
Like obviously it's stress or it's heart attack, but at her father's funeral, while she's holding Bono's hand, his mother collapses and dies.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Like it's insane heartbreak. Like just absolutely crazy fucking insane.
No wonder he is the way he is.
Your life is completely turned upside down at that point.
You're going to feel everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. To just watch your mother die of a broken heart and oh my God, Bono. I'm so sorry.
But it's kind of like this is where like you and I have to expand our empathy because we're not religious people. We're not particularly religious. But if you are a religious person, like Bono was then and the man that he's always been, you can kind of see that this is the daughter following the father home. Like she just didn't want to live in this world without her father, and so she just followed him into the kingdom of heaven.
Oh my God.
So
does he say that? Does he talk about seeing it that way?
He says things like that, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it's one thing because it's like that can be kind of sweetly comforting. Like well, my mother followed her father. Right.
And you hear about that with couples, like couples who've been married for many, many years, like when one dies, the other one will be right behind him. Like we'll have to talk about Johnny Cash one day, but he did that with June Carter. And it's almost sweet. You're just like, yeah, I want to go be with my dude. I want to go be with my girl.
There's a documentary, and I forget what it's called, but I'm going to call it something like Punk Rock Dad. And if you've ever seen it before, it's just like our fathers of punk or whatever.
Okay.
And it's just all the guys that from all of these punk bands that are just covered in tattoos, but they're dads now.
Okay.
Like they're guys that look like Corbin.
Like Corbin.
Like raising their kids. And I'm sorry, I forget who it was. I wish I'd... there was a guy whose son had died in a car accident. And he had two other sons. And the police call and they say, he's here. So he just like races to the scene, and apparently like his other sons had to restrain him from like running out into traffic because he was just so like his son had died. His son had gone over to the other world. Yeah. And all he could think of was, I have to die as quick as I can so that he doesn't get too far away from me. Oh God. So that I can go catch him.
Oh right? My God.
Like that's a thing that like once you give in, I don't mean to say give in because I may not hold these beliefs myself, but I have a lot of respect for the people that do.
Yeah, I do. People need to understand I'm not religious, but I love and respect all of your religions, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of like, it's a perfectly rational thought once you accept that it's a rational thought. Like I need to die as quickly as possible so that I can help my son.
Yeah. He's out there without me. As a parent, like you're like, oh no, he can't be alone. I have to be with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the sort of things that Bono was dealing with because as comforted as he was by the thought that his mother had gone to join her father, he was also thinking to himself, well, she must have made a decision to leave me then. Oh. And left him behind with his father and his older brother, and like, so it's an all-male household, dealing with grief. An all-male household dealing with grief who have lost...
Without their nurturing lady that...
They have lost their nurturing lady, also lost their patriarch. So there's a whole lot of emotional imbalance that's going on there. And Bono finds balance in the church. Like he finds it in religion. And he finds it at Bible study. Like he doesn't necessarily find it the way that you might find it in America, where, like under... like a fire and brimstone preacher, or under some guy who's just telling you like a Joel Osteen or somebody like that who's just telling you like, okay, these are my teachings. He finds it at Bible study where he's going with people his same age. Now none of them are going through some of the things that
That's
he was
what I was
going
going to ask. Did he find a common person to bond with over this?
He found they were called the Shalom group. And they were a group of what we would in America call evangelicals. In Ireland, they were very different, because in Ireland, it's a really traditional Catholic Church or Church of England. And it's, those are sorts of, Presbyterians and things like that kind of have but it's all really traditional stuff.
Yes.
He gets involved in something that's a little more evangelical. So it's a little more like New World Protestantism, where you can interpret it a little, you can kind of cut it and mold it and shape it to fit you a little better.
And that would make sense for him.
Right, which is something that he was able to do. But he was nevertheless an absolute zealot. Like it wasn't just like oh, I fell in love with this like hippie Jesus. Like, this is very much the Old Testament Bible. This is that you are a sinful person. Oh. You are in a fallen state. The devil is coming after you. You can be saved through the teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ. Like and this is who he is, right? At 14, 15, 16, this is what he's coming up at. He's also parallelly coming up in punk rock. Like, he's hanging out with the kids who would have been our friends in high school.
Exactly.
The androgynous kids, the artist kids, the theater kids, the band geeks, stuff like that.
And those two don't usually collide the same way.
No. I think they probably would only collide in this life.
Only in this person, in Bono.
Yeah.
This is really interesting.
So he sees a notice that gets put up at his high school that Larry Mullen, who's a couple of years younger, the drummer, has put up. He's looking for bandmates. Bono can't play an instrument at all. They show up. It's Bono, it's Larry, it's Adam, it's Edge, and his brother. I can't remember the Edge's brother's name.
Is it important?
It's not important. But they show up. It's those five guys. Edge's brother kind of falls off the wayside, and that is U2. They've never played except for once. They played one show that wasn't the four of those guys.
Whoa! So this is this high school band. They've been together since high school.
Yeah, they've played. They I think their first gig was 76 or 77. High school gig, like high school talent show.
That's amazing. I want to see that talent show.
They were called Feedback at the time because the Edge had built his own guitar and his own amp. And it didn't work so well.
Maybe I don't want to see this show.
I know it's a long story, but the point is, Boy comes out in 1980, and that's their first album, and it makes a dent in British charts. They get into like NME magazine, and they're playing British clubs and things like that. And right. they're a good young British, but they're not a big British band, but they're up and coming out of the UK. 1980, Bono would have been 19 or 20, so he's a very, very, very young man.
Yeah,
and he's already getting the success, right? And I'm not saying that it went to his head. What I am saying is that after Boy is successful, he gets deeper into the Shalom group, and they work on October, which is a straight up Christian album. It is a straight up Christian zealotry rock album.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this.
You've got to listen to it because it's hard punk, it's really hard driving new wave, guitar forward, slamming bass, slamming drums, get up and scream and mosh pit and U2 white flag waving young stuff. But the lyrics are straight up Christian zealotry. The choruses, he's literally singing in the chorus, I want to go to the foot of my Messiah. I want to go to the foot of he who made me see. He's not being elliptical about it. He's not hiding it. He's straight up proselytizing for God.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to go back and listen to this.
But
I've never thought of Bono in this way. Never. I've thought of him as an all-world hippie, kind of.
No, he is 100% Christian soldier. And I don't mean a guy who's interested in God or a guy who just oh, this is the kind of thing that I do quietly. He is out there trying to save the world. When you see him do his megalomania, when you see him trying to save the whole continent of Africa, he's not doing that because he's this flamboyant rock star who feels like he's doing it because he's been given a stage and a megaphone to do it, and he feels a moral obligation to go and do it. He can't not do it. It's not a decision he makes. It's just God has told him, here's $1 million, here's 60,000 people in a stadium, go say something important.
Oh my God.
Don't you dare be singing about girls in tight suits.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm is With or Without You religious? Is this song about okay, I won't spin out into a song that the Patreon voters against, but
well, he has said that on numerous when he's talking to younger songwriters. I forget who it was specifically. I think it was Sheryl Crow or somebody like that. was asking him like how did you write so many of these gorgeous songs? Like, your wife must be an amazing person. He's just like, well, I mean, I do write them with my wife in mind, but I write all of these songs about God.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
So, yeah.
Literally, yeah. I gotta go listen to U2 with new ears now.
So, I would say With or Without You is absolutely him struggling with what he sees as his obligation to the Lord.
Oh my God, so, Dianne! My mind is blown.
Absolutely would see it that way. But
I used to water it down to, is With or Without You about a guy who's cheating on his wife with a woman? Like, I can't live with you because I'm married, but I can't live without you. And I'm like, Dianne, you whore. This is about Jesus.
See the thorn twist in your side.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Okay. My mind's just blown now. It's fine.
But that's who he is. And that's like, so he was, that's what he was trying to do with Rattle and Hum and with the Joshua Tree. It's like here's this music that it's gospel music. It's blues music. Like, all of these are music that have come out of American churches, out of Black American churches, right?
Yeah.
So he saw that at that time when he was 25 and 26, this is my avenue. For whatever reason, like, you've given this path to a kid from Dublin that maybe should have been given to, a kid from Atlanta or a kid from Houston.
Yeah.
So he was trying to go back and find that roots music, and then found that he was just way off on the wrong path and had to just go, I got to come back this way.
Wow.
I have to come back to myself.
This is amazing.
But that's obviously what he's trying to do with one is exactly that. Like, he's trying to reach as many people as he possibly can. Like, he's trying to, he's writing a song.
He really is. I mean, and so many people have used this in so many different ways. Like, there's the Mary J. Blige version for the benefit for victims of Hurricane Katrina. And just, there's so many. I mean, there's just, the list goes on.
The Mary J. Blige version is incredible.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that, it was like I've heard this song thousands upon thousands of times. That was like I'd heard it again.
Dude, that woman can hit you in your heartstrings.
But it really does. Like, if you want to, they made 3 different videos for this. And one of them was directed by Anton Corbijn.
Yes.
Who has been a photographer with U2 for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Rattle and Hum.
Okay.
Or he directed parts of Rattle and Hum. He directed a music video for Pride in 1983 or 84. And that video didn't work out so well.
No.
So he made a video for one. Well, they're in Berlin, and all the cars, the Ladas that they're flying around. He hand painted those, and he dressed U2 up in drag.
Yes. And
his thinking, behind it was that like this, the androgyny kind of leads to the sort of like it's the wrong word, but the ambiguity of the song. I was going to say like the androgyny of the song, where you can take it different ways, but the ambiguity of it. That's what he was trying to play up.
Right.
But once U2 decided to donate the proceeds from the U2 single to AIDS charities.
Yes.
And when they did that, they got nervous about the video of them being in drag, as if they were tying AIDS exclusively to homosexuality.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they backed away and made a new video with an American artist who just took these like artsy pictures of buffalo.
This is Mark Pellington.
Yeah.
Mark Pellington did the buffalo running in the field one.
Mm. So it's Native Americans. Have you ever been to No, you would never have been. There's a place in Alberta when I was a kid called Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. And I know I've always wanted to. Okay. It's a national park. What a visual! Unfortunately, it's not a town. Like, I really wish it was a town, because I would rent a post office box at Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump, and that is where I would take my mail.
All of my mail.
P.O. Box 387, Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump, Alberta, Canada.
Okay, what is the story with that name?
Native American tribes, when buffalo herds would be like all over the plains, in order to kill as many of them as possible to feed the whole tribe all in one go, you gather them up. They did it even before horses were introduced, but you would drive the whole herd off of a cliff.
And so they would just die this busted open melon death.
They would fall over head first, and their heads would smash, and then you'd come and you'd take the hides, and you'd take the bones, and you'd take the meat, and you'd make your tents and your teepees, and you'd do it once a year, and you'd feed everybody for the rest of the winter.
Fucking gory mess that was.
Exactly.
Oh my god, did they have to name it so descriptively?
It's called Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump.
We have poets for a reason. Can we pretty this up a little bit?
I'm sure that the actual First Nations is what they would say. I'm sure the actual First Nations language, I'm sure it's something totally different.
Oh my god.
But you could see them like trying to explain it to the first white English or white American guys to
Let me give you the Cliff's notes.
Yeah, big animal, fall, smash head, we all eat. It just became how do we don't speak the same language. We're just there's going to be a lot of ignorance for a lot of years.
Yes.
Clearly.
Oh my gosh.
But that's the metaphor that U2 was driving at or reaching for with that video, is that we're all buffalo and we're all being forced to the edge by forces that are far beyond our control.
Interesting.
Which is another way to interpret this song, is you can't.
It's kind of a weird side note. We talk about this in therapy and anxiety. You're supposed to not run from your anxiety. You're supposed to go forward into it. And there's this great story about buffalo when a really nasty storm would be coming. The buffalo learned that instead of running away from it, if you turn around and ran directly through it, you would get through it faster. Because if you're running away from the storm, that storm's constantly going to catch up with you and you're going to get exhausted and it's eventually going to hit you. But the buffalo learned if you ran directly into the storm, that would go over you faster.
It's like a weather judo. You're using the storm's speed against itself.
And that's what they tell you in anxiety for people who have panic attacks and stuff, is that you're not supposed to get scared and run from it. You turn around and you just face head into it, and then you realize it's not so scary and it washes over you faster. How do
you run? If you're having a panic attack, just sitting by yourself, you're not really doing anything. How do you run? Do you just think about things that terrify you?
No, you have you ever had a panic attack?
No.
They're really hard to explain. I mean, you just feel like you're suddenly dying, the whole world's just closing in. And usually what you would do is get up and start running around the house freaking out, I'm dying, I need to go to the hospital. And instead you're supposed to imagine if you're hovering over a trap door and you're just shaking and trying not to go down it. What you're supposed to do is just let go and slide down it. And you realize once you let go and be I'm having a panic attack, I'm still breathing, my feet are on the ground, I'm not dying, that it just washes over you and leaves.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's facing the fear and realizing there was nothing to be afraid of at all.
I think I just do the dumb Irish thing and pour a whiskey before I get to that point. I feel the creepy crawlies coming. It's time.
Well, do you want to talk about the third video? Because the third video is just Bono reflecting over a cigarette. Yeah, that's the American one.
Let's just step away and make this easy. I think that's him trying to if they're in drag, then the song, I think, then explicitly becomes about the AIDS conversation.
Exactly.
That it becomes a young man trying to explain to his father, that he's gay and he has AIDS, which makes the song a very, very difficult thing to read through. Yeah,
we don't have to do it again, but on your own, go back and listen to the song and listen to the conversation about a son telling his dad, I love it. You act like you never had love and you want me to go out without. It's very different when you think of it in those terms.
Look at the line before that. It becomes explicitly, did I disappoint you or leave a bad taste in your mouth?
Yeah.
You act like you never had love and you want me to go without. That. It's a scalding piece at that point.
Yeah, it really is.
But Bono, he talks about the idea of grace. Because like I said, he is absolutely trying to. You went to the last time that they came through, right?
I went, and I don't know if it was the last time. It was probably 2008 or 2009 is when I went.
You didn't. They did the Joshua Tree tour in 2017. They were doing They were doing the 30-year anniversary of the Joshua Tree.
Okay. So
they came through, and they were going to play the Joshua Tree album in its entirety, and then they opened with Sunday Bloody Sunday, and then a couple of their Sunday Bloody Sunday and Pride, and then one other, I can't remember what it was. But then they do the Joshua Tree the whole way through. But then they started doing like Bono does. If you're a Bono critic, you would call them political stunts or emotional manipulation. But he had there were just a number of memorable moments. But one, they're at a refugee camp of Syrian refugees, And he's got a little girl, or not Bono, but whoever they've sent to go make this film is talking to a little girl, and all you hear they just show you, like, there's this title card, it says Syrian refugee camp. They show you how big it is, and it's massive. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people there, and then the camera zooms in on a little girl, and you just hear a voice saying, "Imagine that there is a stadium full of 50,000 people in America. What would you say?"
Whoa.
And it's just like, at that moment, it's just a close up on this girl. It's like she can't even imagine that that's a thing that could be possible for her. Like, she's in a refugee camp, and Bono is looking because Bono is a religious guy. He understands that we're all God's children, equal in God's eyes. He's the guy who gets to stand in that stadium and say something. You don't get to do it. I don't get to do it.
No.
Bono gets to do it. She doesn't get to do it, but Bono does. So he was trying, it looks like megalomania. It looks showy. It doesn't look that way to me. Like, I take him as 100% sincere guy, because there's nothing in his life that's ever happened to him to make him doubt that his God has picked him for something special. Like, from the time he was very young, like, all the things that you thought when you were 16 or 17 kind of get beat out of you,
right?
Along the way, like a lot of that.
You change your mind and you see things differently.
Yeah,
yes,
that arrogance goes away, that youthful vigor goes away, that bravado goes away. It never went away in Bono because nothing ever took it away. Like, he's like the Michael Jordan of rock stars. Like, he just never loses.
Right. And it just shows how profound and deep his faith is, because like he doesn't get exhausted of trying to do good and to give this message of God's love.
Yeah. And to still be seeking it, right? There's a Christian writer called Eugene Peterson that I never would have heard of if not for Bono. But he wrote, it's a book called The Message Bible, and it's a reinterpretation of the Bible. It's the Bible written in modern language. Mm-hmm. And there are long videos on YouTube of Bono talking with Eugene Peterson. And you would think that it would be like this biblical scholar that, who's, working out of a cabin in Denver. You'd think he'd be like doing everything he could to trade off of Bono's endorsement. Like, you'd think that's the direction that relationship would be going in. Like, he'd be going like, "Bono, write a blurb for my new book," or something like that. It's not. Like, you see these videos, Bono is coming to this man in his little cabin in Denver and seeking his knowledge. Nice. Like, he's not there to impart anything other than to sit at this guy's knee and learn. Like, and this is Bono in his 40s. This would have been Bono in 2004, 2005. This is very late stage, huge Bono, and he's still seeking this. He's still looking for it.
Yeah, I think people do have...
Dare I say he still hasn't found what he's looking for?
I think people, including me, have had Bono maybe a little bit wrong. As far as just, because we see so much ego in rock stars this big. Yeah.
I think you see an ego that big, it's hard to believe that it could be coming from the right place.
Right. Because it almost never, ever is.
Yeah, who else?
Yeah, exactly.
It never does. But he's got this great idea that when Bono talks about religion, karma is kind of central to all religions. And that's the idea that what you put out into the world, you're going to get back. Right. Like if you act against somebody, they're going to act against you.
It's the golden rule.
Yeah, it's Newtonian theory. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But what he's saying with specifically the Christian faith is there's this idea of grace. It's like, it doesn't matter how good you live your life, you're going to sin so much that you deserve hell. You don't deserve to be sitting at the side of God, except for this idea of grace. That grace, Jesus and the Lord can intercede on your behalf and set your feet upon a rock, as they say in Psalm 40. And that goes to the heart of who Bono is. I would go even a step further and say that one could be seen as like a response to With or Without You. Like where in With or Without You, when he's saying like, I can't live with or without you. Mm-hmm. Like what do we do now? Where do we go? This is almost like With or Without You is the argument, and then one is sort of the resolution. Like this is how, like if it's a couple, if you want to simplify it.
I'm looking at the lyrics now and I'm trying to like fit it in now.
If you take all the religious aspects out of it and bring it back down to these are two couples or the same couple, arguing with or without you, would see the stone set in your eyes, see the thorn twist in your side. I wait for you, like I'm waiting for you to come back with me.
Jesus Christ, I can't get over this. Okay.
I can't live with or without you. All that through the storm we reach the shore. You give it all, but I want more. Like you give it all, but I want more. You gave me nothing. Now it's all I got.
Oh my gosh. It's like a puzzle.
But it's also a man growing up. Like he wrote With or Without You when he was 25 or 26, and he wrote One when he's 32 or 33. So he's watched his best friend Edge get divorced. He's watched his band break apart. He's become a father in the meantime.
Oh, when did he become a dad?
90, 91.
Okay.
So sorry, I meant to bring that up, but So there's been obviously a lot of changes in his life, and I think like the romantic yearning guy who wrote With or Without You then becomes a pragmatic older soul who writes something like One.
Wow. Do you know the story of Tom Morello's mother and Bono? Do you know who Tom Morello is? Yeah, I love Tom Morello. For people who don't know, he's a guitarist for Rage Against the Machine, and he's very, very vocal activist, very smart, went to Harvard, one of the most badass guitar players, and his old mama is somehow, and God, I wish I could get Corbin out of the bedroom. He's keeping my son quiet with headphones right now. Corbin knows the story really well in more detail, but Bono and Tom Morello's mom are friends. They're buddies. And Bono I think he called her on her birthday or something, and they had this like really, really long conversation, and later...
How were they friends?
I can't remember how... God, I'm going to almost make Corbin come out here. Corbin, can you hear me? Because he knows the origin of the story. But the funny part is like they talked for hours, and then later on Tom calls his mom, and she was like, I talked to somebody on the phone for a long time, and she couldn't remember his name in fast forward, and he's like, Mom, you talked to Bono for like 4 hours? And now like they talk all the time, and he just recently Tom Morello posted a picture of Bono and his mom, like they're just buddies, they talk on the phone. Isn't that great? I just completely slaughtered the story because as I started telling it, I was like, I don't remember why Bono called her in the first place.
Because Rage Against the Machine opened for U2 in the early 90s.
Is that the origin?
So I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine like Tom Morello bringing his
his mama. But I think it was some other story of like Cypress Hill would come hang out at their house, and she would cook for them or something. Like she's got to be the most badass woman in the world, just chilling and making cookies for these amazing bands.
If I was opening for U2, I'd bring my mom to come meet Bono.
Yeah, you'd have
She'd rather meet Rod Stewart, but we don't live in that world.
That's awesome. Let's see. We spent a lot of time on this.
I could talk about Bono for 4 more hours.
Oh my God. We'll have to do another song down the road. We're not done with U2. Ben is obviously not done talking U2, and it's going to happen. And I will say one more thing about what's going on in the world, because you can't not right now. You see a lot of posts right now about, if you're being silent, you're taking the other side with, the protest. And I'm not silent. I'm definitely not silent. And the way I think about it is, I don't think it does a whole lot of good to just, post a meme or say things on social media showing what side you're on. I think what's more important is the conversations I'm having at the dinner table with my family, and most importantly, my 6-year-old son. I mean, when you were 6 years old, did anyone sit you down and tell you what racial profiling was?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either. And I wish racial profiling and, police brutality maybe wasn't at the forefront when I was 6 years old, but racism has always been around. And, I want to carve out a perfect conversation for my son. And there's these books that you can read about, talking to your children about racism. And that's the conversation that I want to have when it seems like I'm being a silent white woman. I'm like, I'm not, because the children of today are going to be the cops of the future. And,
exactly.
And it's like, we have to make sure they understand what's happening and they grow up with a completely different outlook on life. Mm-hmm. So I'm not being silent. I'm going to make sure that, my son understands this better than any of us ever have.
What my mom and dad have been focused on this year is they have a rule where they each want to change one mind.
Oh.
Like they're white people who.
Oh my God, hold on. We gotta pause, our TV just came on. Okay, sorry about that. There's a ghost in this beach house, and all of a sudden the TV went on and got louder and louder and louder. What were you saying about your parents?
They have an idea that they've spent the year working on. They want to change one mind each. They want to swap one vote. I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we all do.
My parents are affluent white people who live in an affluent white suburb. And if they can flip a vote each, then that's 4 votes.
Wow.
You know, and that's the way that I think.
Have they been successful?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they've definitely been making a lot of progress.
Interesting.
And it's not them making progress. It's events. It's people looking around and realizing that we really, I don't mean to get too down on it, but we
don't have goddamn leadership right now.
We're watching as our society collapse. We don't have a plan to fix any of the problems in front of us. We only have somebody who wants to throw more gasoline on the fire. And it's not just one guy. No. It's a lot of people who, and all of these people come from places like where I come from. They come from the suburb that you live in. It can put blinders on you. And there's a reason why we call it woke. It's because there has to come a moment where you wake up and look around and realize what the real problems are.
Yeah, they are comfortable in their bubble and they don't want it popped.
That's why it's there. It's a bubble that they constructed. Yeah. It's a deliberate thing. Right. And it's hard to, if you grow up there, it's really, really difficult to come out of there thinking anything other than bullshit. It's really, really, there are times when I'm ashamed of it. But when I think of the things that I thought about police brutality and race relations when I was a teenager, I'm appalled to think that. I saw a meme a couple of weeks ago. Somebody said it was the dumbest thing ever. It was just like gangster rap has harmed more black people than white people ever have. Which is so insanely ignorant.
A white person wrote that.
Exactly. But if you'd shown that to me at 16 or 17, I probably would have gone, yeah, you're right. You know, because you grow up that dumb. Right. You don't learn. Well, you're not taught in history class. There's nobody around you who will teach you otherwise. And there's a lot of older white people who are just going to reinforce those bad ideas. Right. And if you can find somebody like that who comes from a place like that, you can flip that around because it is bullshit and it doesn't take much. It's going to take some patience on your part not to go, hey, fuck you, you're a moron. Yeah. You got to pull them in closer. You got to give them a hug somehow. You got to find some common ground.
You got to do it with love.
You got to do it
with love. You have to. That's the only way. And that's the most beautiful things we're seeing out of this protest too, is I think we're finally popping a lot of those bubbles. Yep. You're seeing a lot of love come out of this. I mean, everybody wants to focus on a burning building, but for the first time in so many riots we've had over the decades, I've never seen the cops marching alongside people and kneeling with people and hugging people. And I've seen people just in my own circles who maybe had thought like you did at one time, now being like, okay, you finally have my attention. I'm finally listening. Yeah. I finally understand why he kneels and why they kneel. Mm-hmm. I'm finally listening. It's not about, the flag or the military. So I think it's maybe working. Let's hope.
Actual people, actual lives. And if you can flip one, if you can flip a brain, if there's a brain out there that you're teetering on the edge with, it's so easy to do. It's sometimes on Facebook and Twitter, you just I just want to steamroll that guy. Yeah. That's not gonna help. No. But you can you can see people who are thinking just okay, just a quarter turn. Yeah. Just a quarter turn.
If you can find that common ground and you can find the place of love that you both understand, you're not gonna do it being shitty and calling each other shitty names. Mm-hmm. It's not how it works.
and honestly, it's so strange to say, as somebody who's been a liberal my whole life, it's really weird that I'm saying things I wish our nation's entrenched power structure was better able to protect itself. But I do think that sometimes. I know. It's really kind of strange. What I'm saying is I don't think that the society that we're living in, the system that we're living in, can take much more of this.
Yeah, and it came at such a stressful time. I mean, everybody was so scared to go outside, and then you have all these like differences of opinions of like people like politicizing a virus, and then this happened, and it's like fucking throwing down. Like, we're so stressed already at the point, and I think people don't even care if they were risking getting COVID to go protest.
Yeah, which I understand.
Yeah,
like, you can feel that desperation, you can feel that anger.
Yeah,
like it's. Flip one mind if you can. Please go out and try and do that. I hope you're being safe out there.
All right. With that, I do have, this is a very, we're changing subjects. Harsh.
Here comes a hairpin turn.
I have a dressed up like a douche, and this is from my friend Jackie Powers, and hers is from the song Glycerine by Bush. So she said she knew they were saying glycerine, but I was thinking that glycerine was like Listerine. So I always sang the rest of the chorus, don't let the taste go by, instead of don't let the days go by, which is so funny to me. Like thinking of this song in a very fresh, minty breath way.
I want to do an episode about Bush one day because they're kind of, like, I'm kind of curious about them. I don't know them really well.
Yeah, me either.
But they were crazy successful in the United States.
Exactly.
It didn't make a dent in England at all.
Nothing?
Nothing.
I wonder how they did in Japan.
I don't know.
It's always a weird thing.
I'm kind of fascinated by that. Look, I don't particularly like Bush, but I don't hate him. Like,
No,
I don't ever want to do an
songs.
episode on somebody that's just like, I just hate this song. That would just be a miserable way to spend my time.
Yeah.
I guess Bush is like that's the low.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Okay. I know how you feel about Bush now.
Guilty pleasures.
All right, Ben, do you have a guilty pleasure song?
I do not have a guilty pleasure song today. I don't. I'm all about actual pleasure today.
Okay.
No, I don't. Okay.
Oh, God. He's giggling.
I am kind of giggling.
Okay.
I think we're doing an episode on my guilty pleasure song. I think our next episode is my guilty pleasure song.
Oh, really?
It kind of fits into my, yeah.
Okay.
Because like because I define guilty pleasure song as like the sort of thing I'll only listen to privately.
Okay.
Like I won't.
Right. And a lot of people, I had a friend who was like, I don't understand what a guilty pleasure song is. I was like, have you never been ashamed? Like, do you not know what shame feels like?
I don't even want to tell you.
Like, I mean, you always like, no, everything I like because I'm proud of it. And I was like, you never have something that you're just like, this is quietly mine. I don't want anybody to know that I do this.
Like, no, I've always had absolutely impeccable taste in music. Everything I've done has been perfect.
It just blew my mind. She didn't understand the concept of guilty pleasure. So you said the next song that we do is
I think the
guilty
next
pleasure?
song is going to be my guilty pleasure song.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I feel like I've abandoned my responsibilities.
Oh, no,
do
that's
you have
fine.
a guilty pleasure song?
I do, and mine's a real bad. Mine's real guilty. It starts off like dun 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 dun, dun. And guess what? It's not David Bowie and Queen.
All right, I'll stop you right there.
It's Vanilla Ice. It's Ice Ice Baby, you guys. Listen, every white person who grew up in the 90s can sing all the lyrics to Ice Ice Baby.
Oh, God.
Whether you like it or not. And I went to Eisenhower High School, and when you go to Eisenhower, you are called Ike. Big Ike. And so at the football games, that's all you heard. Dun, 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 and then it was Ike, Ike, baby. Dun, 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 dun. And you're at a football game, you hear the drum beat, kind of get you going.
All right, stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, folded like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock the mic like a vandal, light up the stage and wax a punk like a candle.
Dance.
I think I'm done. I think that's right.
Unfortunately, this is my first concert I ever went to was Vanilla Ice. Let me explain why. So Dianne is fully into I like a certain type of music, but at the same time, I had never been to a concert. And my dad comes in my room and is like, hey, do you want to go see Vanilla Ice? And I was like, no. And he goes, well, Luann, it was a friend of mine I played softball with, she's going, and the girl she was going with now can't go. I don't know if she got sick. And her mom called and said, would you like the other ticket? And I just said yes, because I had never been to any concert ever. And my dad was like, I guess friends with their parents and was going to be cool with it. And he's like, this is your opportunity to go to your first concert. So I went, and I think Rex and Effects was opening. It's like, so we walk in, and I'm my first time in a stadium, and we're getting our seats. And I think I'm seeing like some really dirty dancing. Like, all I want to do is zoom, 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 zoom. Like, I think it was that. Just shake your rump. But, and then I watched the concert, and I was just like, my mind was blown, just because it's fun to go to your first concert. I think it was at the Summit. And so I think maybe that's a reason Ice Ice Baby kind of, like, I heard it in concert, and I felt like the energy of the crowd. So I think that's why I kind of always like secretly liked it.
Did you ever shave your eyebrows?
God, no.
You didn't do the Vanilla Ice, like, scar down the eyebrow?
No, but I don't have a natural arch to my eyebrows, so I spent just a lot of time in the 90s over plucking them, trying to create one, and then now I have to do microblading to, like, tattoo on fake eyebrows. So I fucked up my eyebrows in a different way, just being a teenager in the 90s.
Guilty pleasures.
All right.
Did you ever hear the famous story of the night that David Bowie and Freddie Mercury held Vanilla Ice over the hotel balcony and told them that they wanted their royalties to that song?
I know that there was a fight. I'm hoping that's a true story, but I cannot fathom that being a true story.
Yeah, David Bowie had one leg, Freddie Mercury had the other. Said, you're going to fucking pay us those royalties, motherfucker.
And then was he like, okay. Oh, I have to tell this story. I have to tell it really quick. God, this is like our longest podcast ever, but this one's worth it. My friend Nancy Roper, she was in college, and Vanilla Ice came and played their college. And she was super drunk, and they were like, before the show, like pre-show, they're playing some music, and they have like some kind of girls like dancing like sluts on the stage. And she's wasted, and she's trying to work her way up to the stage, and she wants up on stage to dance with these girls. And but she doesn't want to dance sexy. She wants to be a fool. And so she's like going up to the bodyguard up at the front of the stage, just kind of like winking, like, let me up there. Like, come on. He's like, no. And she's like, she finally talks him into it. So he gets up there, and she just starts clowning. Like, these girls are trying to be sexy, and she starts doing like old school, like kid and play moves. And like, you know, you grab that back foot and then like push the knee forward. I can't describe it. Anyway, she's dancing like an idiot. And like, I think the security guard's like, get your ass down. This is not why I let you up there. And she's like, fool, I'm up here. And then the lights go down, and then the lights come up, and you hear dun 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 dun. And Vanilla Ice is entering the stage. Oh. And he doesn't see, and he's taking a big swig of water from one of these like big quart water bottles. He takes a swig and then just chunks it to his left, hits her right in her fucking head, and she falls off the stage.
What?
Yeah. It knocks her out.
How old is she?
College.
Oh my God.
So I hope I'm not slaughtering this story, but she comes to, and like she's backstage, and she's surrounded by his people, lawyers, everything. Are you okay? Are you gonna sue? Like all this kind of stuff. And she's like, I'm fine, I'm drunk, whatever. And so the next day she gets this massive bouquet of flowers from, God, what's his real name? Something Van Horn or something.
Van Winkle.
Van Winkle.
Yeah. Rob Van Winkle.
Is it Rob Van Winkle?
Yeah.
Sorry guys if we got that wrong. But he sent her a personalized note and a big bouquet of flowers because of the whole ordeal. Isn't that the best? I love that story. I totally forgot about that.
Vanilla Ice is the nicest guy.
All right, you guys. I'm not going to do the whole Patreon spill because this has been a really long podcast, but you know where to go. Patreon.com/rockthecashbar if would you like to be a part of that. I need to start doing every week a special thank you to Chuck Savage for doing our musical bumpers. He does specialized ones for us every single episode, and we can't thank him enough because it makes the podcast sound really fun.
Fantastic musician. Thank you, Chuck.
And then, of course, Sara Wessling for doing our Guilty Pleasures vocals, which my son will say out of nowhere for no reason. He will be like around people or in a restaurant back in the days when you could go to a restaurant, and he would just go, Guilty Pleasures.
I don't know where he gets it.
Oh, Oh, God, I let him hear too much.
What is going on in your house?
I'm so sorry. He just hears too much. And he hears everything. He's always listening. All right, so find us on all the social medias and all the stuff. And thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see you again on Monday.
Go flip one mind. Do the right thing. It's not going to do you any good to be the last buffalo forced off the cliff.
Vogue.
Vogue.